step up and care for you deeply when you do this. So stick around here. I'm going to be sharing some valuable information. But I'm going to share with you what I've observed is there's a significant percentage of women who watch videos hoping they can learn something in a particular area when it comes to receiving more love from the man that she's in relationship, whether she's looking for techniques, what can she say, what can she do? And I understand that desire because whether you're a man or a woman, there's nothing more disappointing than being in a lopsided relationship, meaning that you genuinely care for this person or you significantly care for this person and you don't feel a sense of reciprocation. You don't feel a sense of balance. In fact, you feel quite a bit of imbalance. And I think we have to look at what causes this imbalance, what causes this lopsidedness dynamic in dating, mating, and relating. And I think there's several possible reasons. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with love attachment style, I highly recommend reading the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, and read the book Wired for Love by Dr. Stan Tatkin. And all the books I recommend are listed below in the show notes under Jonathon recommended books. Now, why is this so critically important to understand? Because we have all been imprinted in our childhood based on how our caretakers took care of us, on how they gave us love and how we were able to interpret or receive love. And I'll get into this in a little bit more detail in a moment. But first, I think it's important to read these books to understand love attachment style. In addition, I highly recommend reading the book called Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt. Why is this so critically important? You'll learn about something known as the imago. Imago, I-M-A-G-O. Someone please write that down. Okay. Now, what this refers to is what feels familiar to us in relationships. So if we had an emotionally distant mother, if we had an emotionally distant father, and many women can appreciate that one, we oftentimes are yearning for that emotionally distant parent to give us love. So why is it that we tend to choose people similar to one or both of our parents? Is because from a deep psychological, a deep imprinting level, that's how we believe love is meant to be given to us. So when you think about the idea of a man stepping up and deeply caring for you, I think it's rather important to understand your psychology. There's something I share frequently when I'm working with a client is know thyself. And I say this because women come to me all the time looking for support and assistance in dating, mating, and relating. And what I've come to observe is, well, many men and women alike do this. They operate from a fantasy level, from a macro level, and they're not really getting micro in this. And if you need some support, right here, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. So we have love attachment style, we have imago, and the other reason why it might be lopsided could be because of chemistry, an inadequate chemistry. Now we have to differentiate between sexual chemistry and energetic chemistry. See, here's the tricky part in the early stage of dating, particularly for us men. When we are physically attracted to a woman, we are like sharks in the frenzy and we have to chomp and bite and eat and our eyes roll back behind us when we're in that state of lust or limerence. And many people confuse this as being love. In fact, most of us have been indoctrinated to believe that if you have chemistry, it equals love in the relationship. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. See, what a lot of couples don't go into the dating process understanding is energetic connection. And quite frankly, I'm going to be candid with you. I don't even know how to articulate it properly. It is just on a vibrational level. We vibrate with some people better than others. Have you ever met someone for the first time, you just clicked with them? See, that's energetic chemistry. So in the same context, we oftentimes, the reason why relationships are lopsided is because we might have been focused on the chemistry piece, that lust or limerence, and not enough on energetic connection? Are we matching vibrationally on an energetic level? So he will step up and care for you deeply. Well, we first have to recognize that we as humans confuse unhealthy attachment in the areas of what I just shared, love attachment style, in the area of imago, or even in the area of chemistry. We attach on an unhealthy level, and it's quite possible we're in the wrong relationship. So it's lopsided and we want the other person to love us, but there might be a reason why they can't love us the way we want to be loved. Now I want to share something very personal with you. And again, bear with me. I'm going to be sharing something very valuable to you. I promise. Stick around. Many of you kind of criticize me because sometimes they take a bit of time to get to my point, but there's a real value into hearing what I'm about to share. And that is, men typically get a bad rap, and they're oftentimes called broken. And I don't see anybody as broken, although I might have used the terminology before. I just see many people unhealed. And everybody is on their own hero's journey. If you're not familiar with the term hero's journey, I highly recommend. Can someone write that down in the chat box? Hero's journey and Joseph Campbell. Hero's journey and Joseph Campbell. And what that means is every individual has their own journey in life, and how they arrive to a sense of inner peace is individual for them. And so how they got to where they're at is a reflection of all the pieces of the puzzle that happened even prior to when they were born. So I want to share something very personal with you. Prior to my birth, my mother had my sister, and then she had several miscarriages. I think she had 4 or 5 miscarriages, and she eventually had a stillborn. So by the time I was conceived, I was in her belly. There was actually a 9-year age difference between my sister and I. And during that period of time, my mother was in a heightened state of anxiety, And I want you to understand something. The emotions that a mother in particularly goes through during pregnancy can imprint on a child. And so as I examined this in my own life, I recognized that this was one of the pieces of the puzzle of why I, on occasion, feel completely paralyzed by anxiety. And I'm saying on occasion, I'm not in a constant state of anxiety. So let me just say this. And I've worked on it over the years. But I'm bringing this up is because it can literally start while we're in the womb. And then outside of the womb, my mother didn't know. I was a very rambunctious child, and she didn't know how to manage and handle me. So I spent a significant amount of time in my childhood in a playpen, according to my sister. In other words, she couldn't handle it. While I recognize that we put a child in a playpen, temporarily, but for my mother, it was like prison for me. And that also imprinted on me, or began developing my personality. And then there's another thing I want to share with you. I remember this vividly. I was in middle school. I was 7th grade, and I used to get picked on by kids. I was bullied quite a bit. And so I did something where I would preempt the bullying by going to talking to the person and trying to be nice to them, trying to find out what their needs were and filling that need so I wouldn't get picked on later on during the week. And this became a habit for me. And what that developed as an adult is a need to be a people pleaser and to preempt people from beating me up, metaphorically speaking. So can I share with you that all of these experiences made up who I am? And while I'm here to say I'm not I've got a lot of work to do, my actions and behaviors during my particularly in romantic relationship, was built on a very weak foundation. And my hero's journey has been to do the personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. It's one of the reasons why, for those who are familiar, I wrote a book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Because I recognize this is my journey, and it's your journey as well, to really know thyself. Warts and all, know thyself. And if you need some additional assistance with that, I highly recommend getting the book called The Hoffman Process. The Hoffman Process. This is a deep dive into healing childhood wounds and adult traumas that cause our negative patterns and our limiting beliefs in our lives. I share this story because many men can't step up because the ground underneath them doesn't feel solid on an emotional level. While as humans, we all want companionship. We all want connection. And for the most part, most of us all want physical intimacy. It's a strong biological desire, and it's certainly a pretty strong need for everyone. And if we could just be hooking up with people all the time and be, from a moral perspective or even a individual moral perspective, that's the way our society would be. And yet our society has something known, the word commitment. We call the word relationship. We call the word partnership as the benefit for, or as the foundation for getting companionship, connection, and sex. You see, now I'm not suggesting we have to be in that mode of operandi, but I think to build deep trust with someone, you need some level of continuity. You need some level of building trust with one another so you can actually open up at a deeper level. And so when someone has been relatively wounded in their childhood, like what I experienced, and many of you could possibly relate to it as well on some level, I've been working on my own to heal those wounds that have happened early in my childhood that I had no control over. And yet my behaviors oftentimes were a reflection of some deep-seated woundedness. So what's it going to take for a man to step up and care for you? Ideally, maybe he grew up in an idyllic childhood. Maybe that's it. And he's relatively secure in his attachment style. But I believe the vast majority of single men and women out in the dating marketplace are either anxious or avoidant or some variations of those two. By the way, my coffee mug says, "Swear a little, you'll feel better." And excuse the slurping. So what's it going to take for him to step up and deeply care for you? I think it's going to require this from you ladies, okay? And I want you to write this down. First, when you stand in your power, and we'll talk about that in a moment, when you stand in your power. Number two, when you develop deep friendship with the person that you're with, when you mutually develop deep friendship with each other or develop friendship with each other. And number three, okay? When you operate in a partnership capacity, he will then step up and care for you when these three things happen. Now, first and foremost, standing in your power. What that really means is to have healthy boundaries in your life, to have healthy boundaries. And I like the way Brene Brown articulates boundaries. And she wrote the book, one of many books. I have the copy called Daring Greatly. By the way, link below to get a copy of this book. So I like the way she describes boundaries. She says, what's okay and what's not okay for me. What's okay and what's not okay for me. And this is every facet. When a woman is in her power, when she can actually establish a boundary with a man, she says, I have self-respect. See, one of the fundamentals of power is self-respect. And I know many of you ladies have compromised in that area because you believe that if the minute you speak up and speak your truth, you'll lose a person. But let me tell you something, you only lose the person who's incapable of actually leaning into a deeper relationship. By the way, chapter 1 in my book, Speak Your Truth, Do It with Kindness, chapter 9 says, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Develop friendship. How is friendship developed? It's on the phone. How's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. Tell me about your day. What was going on with your day? Is your day good? I want to hear all about your day. Certainly, sharing your experiences is a pathway to developing friendship, but real friendship happens through intimacy. And I don't mean physical intimacy. It's about sharing your feelings with each other about things. It's not, how's your day going? This is how I felt about my day. And I'd like to hear how you felt about your day. It is through our emotions, particularly when we are doing social activities, hobbies, mutual interest, spending time with family and friends. That is how we develop friendship for the most part. I don't want to say it as an absolute. And then partnership. When you are partners with one another, when you're actively integrating into each other's lives and helping each other as teammates. And I want to use an example that will illustrate this. I don't know if any of you watched the, I think it was HBO or Showtime series called The Tudors, which was about Henry VIII. And in the beginning, it was about his wife, Anne Boleyn, which came after Catherine of Aragon. Now, while we know this wasn't a success story, but there is a success story in this. And that is, first and foremost, Anne Boleyn set a boundary. They set a boundary. She set a boundary, no physical intimacy until they were married. Now, you have to understand, Henry VIII, at least in this show, was an absolute player. You know, he basically was married and having, he was unfaithful to his wife. So she set a boundary, and he respected her for that boundary. Number two, during that time where there was no sex, they developed friendship with one another. And last but not least, to get an annulment from his marriage, they mutually developed the Church of England. And again, this illustrates, and they eventually got married. Now, of course, I recognize it didn't work out but the point is, she could have just been someone he used, and he eventually married her because she had a boundary. They developed friendship, and they operated from a place of partnership. And when a woman or man operates, by the way, this is true for men and women alike. When we operate from a place of, in our power, in our self-respect, self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem, when we operate from that place, and then we develop genuine friendship with one another, and then we operate as partners with one another, we're naturally going to want to step up and we genuinely care for people that we respect, that we're friends with, and most importantly, we're teammates with one another. Ultimately, that is the real, at least in my mind, the real goal of doing all this is eventually become teammates with one another. Otherwise, you just might as well be hooking up friends with benefits or just have a situationship. And certainly, people are welcome to do that. You're absolutely welcome to do that. But if you want something deeper, recognize. Now, you might be saying, well, Jonathan, why is it the woman has to do all the work? I'm not asking you to do any work. I'm just asking you to have this awareness and operate from this place. And certainly, men are easily trainable. When a man genuinely has energetic connection with you, by the way, you can introduce all these things with ease. He's going to say, wow, you just made my job easier. Because most men, sadly, are rather clueless. They're winging it, as I always say. And look, I wish I could be there for you on a first date. I'd have a shotgun pointed at the guy's face and say, what's your intention with my little sister? Because I'm your big brother. I certainly would like to encourage more men to be intentional in the process. But remember, you get to be intentional in your process and see if he meets you. Because if he doesn't meet you, then you can go two separate ways. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know if it is. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to get the books I recommend, it's listed below. If you want to schedule a discovery call with me, if you want to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, if you want to follow me on Instagram, all in the links below.